All right, everybody. We are here with Bill Himmelstein, founder and CEO of Tenant Advisory Group. Once again, I'm Matt McCormick with SmartShift Technologies, and today we'll be discussing the entire industry of real estate and some very specific niches. So, Bill, glad to have you on. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Matt. I appreciate the opportunity.
Beautiful, beautiful. We're happy to have you. So, what I'd like to start off with generally is, from the very beginning here, what originally got you started into real estate?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it really dates back to my childhood and just learning different things from my father, having him teach me about leverage. He said, if you buy a building that's cost $1 million, you only have to pay 200,000 and the bank will pay the rest. But then you have a mortgage. Well, your tenants are going to pay that mortgage and your taxes and your expenses. And if all things go well, you've got a little money left over to buy your next building. And so I was just very fortunate from a young age to have a father who talked to me about things like this and talked to me about building wealth and how real estate is a tremendous vehicle for doing that. And so just listening to my dad and there was a few other people along the way that certainly had an influence, but it was predominantly just the childhood that I have, being very fortunate of learning from my father about what was real estate, how does it work, how can I get involved, and how can you make a living practicing real estate.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a tremendous amount of value. And a lot of times, you're right, you were fortunate because they don't teach these things in school. Maybe, a little bit through business school or specifically, real estate related licenses. But, having an understanding from an early age is beyond valuable. And it's something I plan to teach my children as well. So was your father in real estate as well?
So he was an entrepreneur. He was owned a commercial flooring business, but with his income that he didn't need to spend on his family, that's what he did is he would buy real estate. It started with duplexes and then got bigger and he just kind of continued that throughout his career. But so real estate was not his primary business, but I think that he did really well and made smart decisions and worked really hard and managed these properties himself for a very long time. But so it was a secondary kind of, call it a side hustle.
Yeah, exactly.
I think what they would say today.
Yes, absolutely. A secondary income source for sure.
There you go.
No, that's fantastic. So with that being said, so you had an understanding from an early age. So how long have you been in the business of real estate as of now?
So I have been a commercial broker for 25 years, over 25 years now. I started my own company 17 years ago, but I was investing prior to that. There was things when I was younger, my father would show me, third party deals. So we would be a GP, a general partner to the LP, we would be an LP, a limited partner to the GP general partner who would come up with the deal. And so I've probably been investing for over 30 years in real estate.
Wow. Yeah. So tremendous experience.
Not all of them have been great,
Well, that's the thing. Yeah.
Again, I was just fortunate to have a mentor, my father, who took the time to teach me and walk me through these different investment opportunities and what he liked about them, what he didn't like about them, where there were questions and, how to get those questions addressed. And so, again, I recognize that not everybody is that fortunate enough to have somebody, whether it's a parent or not, to take them under their wing and kind of teach them the ropes. And so I just got pretty lucky.
So you kind of had Rich Dad, Poor Dad without reading the book.
Well, dude, Matt, you're spot on. And I did read the book later and I was like, oh my gosh, This is what my dad was teaching me.
Yes.
And one of the things, I was just talking about this last night with some friends of mine who we were talking about finances and personal finances and how to build wealth. And I said, one of the first things my father ever taught me, which is very simple about budgeting, was don't spend more than you make.
Yes, absolutely.
It's a very simple concept. If you make 100,000, don't spend 105.
Right. Yes.
Because then you're going to find yourself in some trouble. And so the whole focus of my career has always been about making enough money at my day job that more than covers my life expenses so I can then invest money into predominantly real estate that generates passive income. And so
Absolutely.
I love that Rich Dad Poor Dad is such an awesome book.
It is.
I recommend to all your listeners. If you haven't read that book, it's a quick, easy read,
Yes.
but it's a game changer. It will shift your mindset in how you look at money and investing, and it's easy. It's an easy read.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. It's a fantastic book. I strongly agree. That's great. So that gives me quite a bit of an insight on your background and, kind of the level of experience that you do have. So with your brokerage, you started that, you said 25 years ago. Is that correct?
That is correct.
25 years ago. So as of right now, so how many agents do you have in your brokerage as of now?
So I started in brokerage 25 years ago. I started my company 17 years ago.
Okay.
We have four brokers now.
Okay.
However, I have another 6 brokers outside of Tenant Advisory Group that I'm keeping busy feeding deals. And
Okay.
the good news is we have a lot of opportunities coming in.
Yeah.
And I'm able to direct those clients to the right service provider, to the right person, whether if it's my team doesn't have the time, the bandwidth, or even if the expertise, I'm going to find the person, the broker that can do a great job, has the time and the bandwidth, and really knows that subject matter, whether it's retail, sale leasebacks, industrial, a different place around the country, whatever it is. If my brokers don't have the ability to provide an exceptional experience for our client, then I'm going to find the broker who can. And so
Right.
I hate that I'm keeping 6 other brokers outside of Tenant Advisory Group busy, because we would be far more profitable if we could keep those transactions in-house.
Right.
But I love my team. They're terrific. And they share similar values as me, which is, do what you say you're going to do, put the client's best interest first, and be responsive. Simple things. I didn't reinvent the wheel, but when you practice those 3 simple values day in and day out,
Yep.
that's how you build a great reputation. That's how you get more opportunities coming in the door.
Yep.
And that's how you have longevity.
Yes, absolutely. So, reputation is huge, and especially, focusing, on the commercial side as well, relationship building is massive, right? So making sure it's not just, okay, we got the deal done, let's make some money. No, make sure that your clients are satisfied and they appreciate the high level of service, and that takes you to a whole nother world of opportunity, right?
Matt, you are so spot on. And because that's our focus, we set out with a simple goal of delivering an exceptional client experience to every single client that we have. You can see the results in this very easily, very clear, and abundantly is on Google reviews. All right.
Yes.
Our typical competitor, CB Richard Ellis, Jones Lang LaSalle, the biggest firms in the world,
Yeah.
they will have between, say, 7 and 10 reviews, complete mixed bag of, 1 star. These people are horrible. They messed us up. It was a terrible experience, all the way to 5 stars. But I will point out, those 5 stars are typically no comments. And
Yes.
oftentimes they share the same last name as some of the members on the executive team. I
Right.
don't know
Right.
how that works out. I don't know. But
Yeah.
so 5 to 7 or 7 to 10, whatever, for my competitors. Tenant Advisory Group just yesterday got our 126th review.
Wow.
Every single one of them is 5 stars.
That's phenomenal.
Every single one of them has a detailed description of what we did, and not a single one of them shares the same last name as myself or any of my executive team members. So
Beautiful.
I'm very, very proud of that. And
Yes.
that's one of the big reasons for our success, is that we're so focused and intent on delivering an exceptional client experience, not just during the real estate transaction, but supporting the growth of their business when we're not working on a real estate transaction for them.
Right.
And that's why we get all these reviews, and that's why we get people finding us online wanting to work with us, because they see the proof's in the pudding. They can see it. It's all right there on
Yeah.
Google reviews for people to see.
Absolutely. That's phenomenal. 126
Thank you.
5-star. That's phenomenal. That it really is. It really is. And that, that really demonstrates, your commitment to, the client journey through the entire process. And, that kind of leads into another question we're going to get into in a few minutes though. But, okay. So we understand, okay, you've been in business for that. We know how many brokers you work with, the reviews and how you deal with your clientele. Now, out of curiosity, so what areas do you service specifically? Is there specific areas? Are there, external areas that you do referrals or?
Yeah, great question. So our core competency, where I think we excel, there's three verticals. There's office, there's industrial and warehouse, which I group together, and there's medical, right? Within those, we do tenant representation, we do buy and sell side representation, and we do sale leasebacks.
Okay.
The location we do this in is predominantly Chicagoland area, is about 50% of our revenue.
Okay.
And then all across the rest of the United States is the other 50% of our revenue.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to such things as retail, I don't know enough to provide an exceptional experience and exceptional results. So I want to find somebody who I have those people in my network that can do an exceptional job. On a sale leaseback, if it's bigger than, say, $10 million, it's going to be a little bit outside of my wheelhouse. So I've got a broker at JLL who does over $100 billion of sale leaseback transactions a year.
Okay.
He's the best of the best. So that's my guy I go to when it's a 10 million or plus sale leaseback.
Right.
And then, if someone wants to do a development, that's not my area of expertise. Now I can advise them. I can help them buy land. I can get them in touch with the right builders to do this.
Yep.
So there's just certain things that, look, do I know enough to be dangerous? Yes. Is it going to be in the client's best interest to solely work with me on those assignments? No.
Right.
And so for me, it's not about that one-time commission that I might earn. It's about the lifetime of that relationship, where if I do the right thing for them now, which might be to bring in somebody else who really does have that expertise and can provide that exceptional client experience, then I'm going to do that 10 times out of 10, every single time. And so when it comes to tenant representation, buy and sell side of office, industrial, or medical, Tenant Advisory Group can knock it out of the park. If it's a little bit more nuanced and outside of our core competency,
right,
I'm going to bring in the right people.
Makes perfect sense. It truly does. Now, one of the things that I noticed on the website that was quite impressive, it looks like you were the only tenant representative in Chicago to hold this Certified Commercial Investment Manager designation. Is that correct?
So there's one other gentleman.
Okay.
I'm blanking on his name right now. He's a smart, sharp, good broker.
Okay.
Because he got his CCIM like I did. So the key in that is really understanding what is the other side's motivation, right? What do they want to accomplish? You might think it's super simple. A landlord wants to maximize the value of their asset. Yes. And oftentimes, especially nowadays, Matt, they have a mortgage on that building. And now the lenders are controlling a lot of the outcomes and what a building can and can't agree to. So by getting your CCIM designation, which by the way, it's about a 7-week course. After each week, you're taking a day-long exam. And then at the very end of it all, you take a cumulative final exam. So it's not an easy thing to get.
Yep.
But yes, I do want to be clear. I'm not the only one. I'm one of two. And there's probably, I would guess, around 4,000, maybe 3,000 or 4,000 brokers in the Chicagoland area.
Yeah.
And I'm one of two that has our CCIM designation. Thanks for putting that out, Matt.
Yeah, so very impressive. Absolutely. Absolutely. So kind of leading into one of the components I like to have a discussion on. So we like to hear all the good things about the industry and so forth, but there's always the, not necessarily a downside, but a potential downside. What type of challenges do you typically see within the industry?
That is such a great question, Matt. I really love that because you're really getting to the core of, I think, who Tenant Advisory Group is, who I am as a person. And I think the biggest thing that commercial real estate struggles with, not residential real estate, because almost all that information is public, but in commercial real estate, I think there's a transparency issue.
Okay.
And I'm going to explain what I mean. So my first 8 years of my career, I worked for some of the bigger firms that we had mentioned earlier. And their mantra was make as much money as you can and step on anybody's throat you have to get it. Now, oftentimes that meant stepping on your own client to make more money, and AKA charging the landlord a higher commission, not a market-driven commission, but something higher which is solely passed along in a higher rental rate.
Right.
That violates our fiduciary responsibility to put our clients' best interests first. And I'm seeing this, I'm watching this happen. These are the biggest firms, they're publicly traded. And I get it. They've got to meet their quarterly estimates and projections, and they've got to make as much money as they can. And don't get me wrong, I'm trying to make money as well, but I want to do it along with others. I want to make a bigger pie rather than just get a bigger slice of the pie for myself. And so seeing this conflict of interest, this lack of transparency in the industry has really, I'm not going to say I'm a crusader, but it's been a very upfront and focused on value that we have, which is, putting the client's best interest first. It's not a tough thing, but I believe that when you do that, in the long run, you're putting your own best interest first because you're going to get a better deal for your client. You're going to get that review on Google. And then all these other people are going to start reaching out, wanting to work with you because you're doing the right thing. And so that to me is a big issue within commercial real estate, is really dealing with people's skepticism. They've dealt with other brokers before. More often than not, they did not have a good experience. They just didn't get that level of responsiveness. They didn't get that level of transparency. And at the end of the day, it left the client with a bad taste in their mouth. So that's been a challenge that I've had to overcome. Here's another very simple example, is just telling the client what my commission is.
Right.
I was taught by these bigger firms, do not tell the client what your fee is.
Okay.
Like, wow, that's really strange, because in fairness, the landlord's paying your commission, yet you're representing the tenant. That seems like a pretty big conflict of interest. Well, it is, because these bigger firms make it one. They say, well, we're going to get as big of a commission as we can. Whereas I tell my client, this is what the market commission is. It's in our working agreement. This is what the market fee is. And that's what I'm going to be seeking.
Right.
If the landlord offers a bonus commission, we're going to say, no, that should go back into free rent for my client.
Right.
I shouldn't benefit from a bonus commission. My client should. Another thing, and I just had this conversation last week. We were at an impasse between my client and the landlord because of their cash flow issues. I said, look, we can just delay receipt of our commission. Typically, we're paid 30 days after lease execution. And I said, why don't you wait until you've collected that amount in rent and then pay us our commission? And the landlord was flabbergasted. They were floored. They were like, what? What did you just, I've never heard that before. No broker has ever offered that to us before. And they've been doing this for decades.
Right.
I said, look, if it helps bridge the gap and get the deal done, and it helps the landlord's cash flow position, and it gets my client the ability to get this deal done, I don't care if I receive my commission today or 6 months from now. I don't have to have it now.
Right.
Whereas no other broker has ever offered something like that. So it's things like that. It's the transparency issues, that it makes it a little bit more of a challenge for us to overcome when we're talking to prospects.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, again, if you have consistent negative experiences and, something that you said you just offered there, that would have been a shock, if you're not used to that. So that's not just great service. That's actually above and beyond, especially from what they're anticipating. So, and again, that builds great long-term relationships, which also builds
100%.
a business. So I think you're entirely correct on that component, which is, it's nice to see, because you do see, and again, like you said, not so much in residential real estate, but in commercial, but also in residential, you have specific scenarios where, it's not necessarily in the client's best interest on how some realtors operate, right? So, being transparent is massive, 100%. Now, that's kind of the side of the challenges. So let's get back to, what you kind of see in the future. What type of growth do you anticipate in the future in your industry?
In the industry as a whole, or with Tenant Advisory Group specifically?
Well, let's go. We can do as a whole, and then specifically in your verticals that you specialize in.
So, all right. I think that's a wonderful question, Matt. In an industry, I believe it's not here yet, but I do believe that AI, it's not going to disrupt the industry, but it's going to enhance the industry. I don't think brokers like myself are going to be put out of work. I hope those aren't famous last words, by the way. But I think myself included, all these real estate firms, we're just trying to figure out, how can we utilize this incredible technology to make our lives simpler, make us be more productive. And what I'm thinking about is how can I use this to provide a better client experience? Haven't seen it yet. We're working on it, right? We're trying to figure that out. There are ways that we are using it to make things more streamlined, to get better information to our clients. But there's still a ways to go. In terms of how do I see tenant advisory groups growth in the future, Matt, we touched on this earlier. I have the wonderful problem of having too many opportunities
Yes.
than my in-house team has time for. And my biggest challenge right now is attracting those brokers who know how to handle an assignment, who know how to work a deal, share the same values as myself and Tenant Advisory Group. And so that's really, I think my growth will be, I guess, achieved through one of two ways: either hiring more brokers under the Tenant Advisory Group brand, or merging Tenant Advisory Group with a bigger brokerage firm that has those additional resources and brokers in house. So
Right.
you're probably the first person publicly to hear that is something that, I've had conversations with other brokerage firms who are interested in acquiring Tenant Advisory Group. The good news is that if we were to do that, I would ensure that it does not change our client experience. And all it does is serve to enhance the experience, enhance the tools in our tool belt, enhance and grow the different things that we can do for our clients. And so those are the two ways that I think Tenant Advisory Group is going to grow in the future, either organically or through a merger.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. It's when you have an influx of business to that extent, it's not a bad problem to have. It can still be a
Not
problem,
bad.
but it's not a bad problem. You mentioned something there as well as with the industry as a whole. So you talked about AI and the advancement of technology and so forth. So you said you're kind of touching on topics there as well. So I know you said you use AI. Is there anything specific you use with AI, or do you use any different technology that helps your organization as a whole, or specifically to whether it's grow your business, etc.?
Yeah, that's a great question, Matt. And I'll tell you, in general, the real estate industry in the 25 years I've been front and center has traditionally been very slow to adapt to new technologies. I think that all the firms, including myself, are exploring AI and what it can do for your firm at this time. I wish I could tell you, Matt, that we're using it to automate processes and we're using it to prospect. We're not. All right. I'm not comfortable prospecting in that way yet. The main purposes that we're using it for are on our marketing, um, you know, uh, just making sure that the language, that the words that we're using clearly articulate our values and what we're trying to communicate. And sometimes I might write an email to a landlord that's angry. I'm angry at that moment when I'm writing it. So I want to get in the habit of stepping back, taking what I've written, and before I send it, put it into Chat GPT or whatever and saying, hey, I don't want to be mad or offensive, but I want to be clear, I want to be forceful, and I want to be firm. And I swear, ChatGPT will take my email that was a rage email
Yeah.
and really do a great job with it. So we're just kind of scratching the surface with our use of AI, but the way that we are using it, sometimes I'll say, I know what construction costs are. So I want to say, what does AI think construction costs are and why are they this? Is this more or less than they used to be? Just to see if it's spitting out the information that I already know to be true.
Yep.
Sometimes if I'm getting into bed with, and I mean that metaphorically, if I'm starting to work with a new client or a new vendor, I'll put them into AI and say, what do we know about this? Is this a good person or not? And might bring up court cases that they've been involved in. And so there's really been great research potential, which I
Absolutely.
think is
Yeah.
better than just your traditional search engines.
Yep.
Even though my understanding is AI is scraping all the search engines,
Right, correct.
essentially,
Yeah.
further information. But it's just been helpful in ways like that where someone says to me, should I lease or should I own? Now, I already have a one pager I've generated with the positive and negatives of both leasing versus buying. But for their specific situation, I want to say, does it make sense to purchase a building in, Elk Grove Village versus building one new, and why? I know the answer to that,
Right.
but I want to see AI spit out in a more clear, concise way why the cost of construction has gone up so much that it really doesn't make it worthwhile to build versus buy.
Right.
So
Right.
just things like that. Like I said, Matt, I think we're just scratching the surface. Um, I'm sure there's a lot more that it can do. I imagine our big competitors who have far more resources to invest in that are probably further down the road. But I haven't heard from anybody that, oh my gosh, what this real estate firm is doing is blowing the socks off of the competitors. And, I haven't heard that yet, but
Right.
I want to be the one that does it.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, that's fantastic. And I guess, Bill, for the viewers that are going to be watching this podcast here, any potential buyers or sellers or anyone who's looking for a property to lease, trying to weigh the pros and cons, what would be like a final piece of information that you would give them? Whether it's they're deciding on which brokerage to work with, key tips, any final notes there?
So 100%. Number one is work with a broker. Find a broker that you trust, that is respected in the community, and engage them. Number two, once you get a list of these brokers, I highly recommend going to Google. Every broker is going to tell you they're the best broker. But let's find out what the clients are actually saying about these brokers and not what their spouses are saying. So make sure
Right.
when you're looking at Google, see, take a moment to see who are the names of these that are providing these reviews, and if they have the same last name as the CEO or CFO of of the person running that brokerage firm, you should be a little skeptical. But that's
Yeah.
number one: is hire a broker that has experience, that you trust, and that their clients are providing positive feedback. And then you're going to be in great hands going forward. And then listen to them. Like I had a guy, we were looking to buy a property in the West Loop. And I showed him a whole bunch of research and comps about why we thought the price that the landlord was asking was reasonable, and why I thought and how I could show that this is going to appreciate because of the rent that's going to be paying and the past appreciation in the area and the reason why it was zoned and the amount of supply. And they all said that this wasn't a good opportunity, which was wrong. That was the wrong advice, but he took it and passed up on this. And I just know I am 100% certain that the next time this building trades, it'll be for a much higher valuation than what it's trading at right now. Am I going to show him that down the road? No, I don't need to say I told you so, but I don't love working with clients that don't trust me.
Right.
And that was clearly one of them. He talked to other people, and it's very possible these other brokers were just upset that he didn't hire them. So they just wanted to torpedo the deal. But I said, here's the comps. Here's the number, $196 a square foot for properties like this in the area. That's what it's been sold for. What those brokers told him was 130 to 150. But that's the facts. The actual closed deals average 196. We were at 205 a square foot. And he said to me, I think this is going to be worth something to an owner occupier. I said, client, you're an owner occupier. That's you. And these
Yeah.
other brokers were saying, don't do it. Let me show you some options, and it's just really disappointing when a client doesn't trust you, because then they're not going to get a good result.
Right, right. So really, everyone that's listening, do your due diligence, check out reviews, make sure the brokerage has a strong rapport with their past clients, and make sure that they have the expertise for the areas that you're looking for, the types of properties, and again, if you're in, I guess anywhere in the states, which you somewhat deal with, but especially in Chicago, reach out to Bill, his team at Tenant Advisory Group, and they will be able to provide you with some accurate information. Awesome. Well, Bill, I appreciate having you on. That was a lot of information, a lot of knowledge to consume, which is fantastic. And you know what? We might do this again in the future, maybe in a year or so, and have another update.
I'd be happy to, Matt. I greatly appreciate the opportunity.
Beautiful. You have a great day. Okay.
All right. Thanks. You too.